With league-wide fan events having finished up and training camp underway, the UFL is full steam ahead for 2026. As the league heads into another season, one of the most interesting storylines isn't just the teams on the field, but the fan bases behind them. Some cities have already proven they can pack stadiums with record-setting crowds and bring incredible energy to games, while others have shown in the past that their fans are more than capable of turning a stadium into a real home field advantage. Howdy, I'm Logan with Alt Football Archive, and today we're breaking down UFL fan bases and looking at which ones lead the league right now and which ones you should keep an eye on. To start off, let's discuss the top performers, which are fan bases that have shown consistent, outstanding support for their teams throughout the seasons. First, let's discuss the DC Defenders fan base. The DC Defenders set the standard for what the league is looking for in stadiums, playing at Audi Field, a soccer stadium which offers a unique experience different from a traditional football environment. The smaller capacity stadium, with seats sat closer together and aligned more vertically, makes fans feel closer to the action and are far louder on the field. There's a reason why fans call it Rowdy Audi. The DC Defenders fanbase has consistently been one of the best in spring football, showing their support for the Defenders all the way back in 2020, so over the past 6 years now, they've been really stepping up their game. DC Defenders games are almost always packed and full of energy, with the birth of the Beer Snake, a spring football staple at Audi Field, being one of the best traditions in the sport. And the fans are very serious about it. They're organized for when it goes up, organized when it goes down and gets recycled. They send people out to grab cups throughout the stadium and don't even think about touching it, or they will chuck lemons at you. It is definitely a spring football bucket list item of mine to add a cup to the Beer Snake one day, so just an amazing environment that I think everyone should check out. If DC has the best energy, then this fanbase has the biggest numbers. The St. Louis Battlehawks are by far the best attended fan base in spring football. They have record-setting crowds and hold the record for the most attended spring football game, with 40,317 fans showing up in 2024. St. Louis is a special case of a fan base rebelling against the NFL. The St. Louis Rams left the city high and dry after the 2015 season, where owner Stan Kroenke justified moving the team to LA, saying that St. Louis just isn't a sports city and that they can't support an NFL team. Fans in St. Louis felt extremely slighted after supporting the team for the past 20 years. In 2020, the XFL came to town, debuting a team made just for St. Louis. Battlehawks fans showed out in support, leading the XFL that season in attendance. The Battlehawks returned in 2023 and have seen outstanding support from the city, routinely attracting over 30,000 fans per game in 2023 and setting the modern spring football attendance record that season with their home opener, attracting 38,310 fans and topping it a year later with the current record. I'm not from St. Louis, but I have heard from those who do live in the city that they are extremely well supported and that you could honestly mistake them for an NFL team if you weren't familiar. There is still a lot of anger towards Stan Kroenke, and the fans are using it to create one of the most outstanding environments in spring football. Interestingly, recently there's been rumors that the league may be looking at Energizer Park, home of the Major League Soccer St. Louis City SC, to be the new home stadium for the Battlehawks, with a seating capacity of 22,423, which is about 44,500 less seats, or about 3 times smaller than the current Battle Dome. Moving to the stadium does fit the league's focus on soccer stadiums being the home environments for their UFL teams, and it seems like price will be the deciding factor on if this move does happen. I think it would be a shame to see this happen, as the outpouring support from St. Louis gives the Battlehawks such a cool home environment, and they're one of the few teams that can really justify being in an NFL-sized stadium, so if they were to move to a smaller capacity stadium, their games would lose that unique factor that makes them such an interesting team to watch. Up next, I want to talk about some promising newcomers. There are a few expansion teams that seem to be having tremendous success building up and energizing their fan base leading up to the season. The first team we'll discuss is the Louisville Kings. Louisville is a city that is quickly making a name for themselves in spring football. A few weeks ago, there were fan events held across the country for each UFL market leading up to the spring football season before training camp, and they were meant to energize the fan bases and season ticket holders, but none were nearly as successful as Louisville. There was some skepticism seen online initially when the new markets were revealed. Louisville had made a lot of noise in the offseason as a potential market that the league would likely go to, but unlike Columbus and Orlando, it wasn't one that was talked much about in the larger spring football community as a true home run market. Well, the folks at Louisville set the record straight by having so much demand, the league had to move to a larger venue to accommodate the thousands that showed up. Support of the Kings fan base goes beyond just attending fan events, as tickets available for their home opener are almost completely gone. The Kings are set to kick off the UFL season with a home game against the Birmingham Stallions, and it looks like they'll be hosting a sold-out crowd. Louisville is a city with a strong identity that strongly supports their local college football program, the Louisville Cardinals, with the head coach of the Kings himself being a record-setting QB for the Cardinals. Louisville at this point looks to be a slam-dunk choice for the league, striking gold in an untapped market that is hungry and eager to support a professional football team. With a packed and close-knit environment in the Lynn Family Stadium, the Kings fanbase looks ready to challenge the Defenders and Battlehawks as one of the most energized fanbases in spring football. Up next, we have to talk about the Columbus Aviators. Columbus has long been a city talked about in expansion circles in the spring football community. They have long had a strong TV viewership presence in spring football. I know I first paid attention to their ratings back in 2020, where they beat out most TV markets despite not having a team themselves. This was believed to be in part due to Cardale Jones, a famous Ohio State Buckeye, who played his college career in Columbus, starting for the East Division leading DC Defenders. The strong TV viewership for the league continued in 2023 with the reboot of the XFL and has even continued through 2025. Columbus has ranked as one of the top TV markets for the UFL, beating out many other markets that have teams themselves. In 2026, the city will finally be rewarded with a franchise of its own, with famous Ohio State Buckeye wide receiver Ted Ginn Jr. taking the reins as their first ever head coach. With a strong showing at their fan event with over 1,000 Aviator fans lined up literally out the door to meet the Aviators head coach and players, there is serious potential that Columbus's strong TV viewership can translate to a high-energy environment in the Aviators' inaugural season in 2026. The focus this season on attendance is due largely by the fact that these past couple seasons we've seen teams really struggle with attendance and fall short of where the league would like. This is partly due to marketing, partly due to market-to-market variables, but there are some teams that have shown the ability to pack out their stadiums in the past, so let's get into these teams, which I'm referring to for this video as sleeping giants. First, I think we do have to talk about the Birmingham Stallions. This last offseason has been a rough one for the Stallions faithful. There was a challenge issued to Stallions fans before the season started to get 10,000 season ticket deposits, otherwise the team would be relocated. And after ensuring their team would stay through an outpouring of support, the league has shown interest in moving the team again, this time moving their longtime home at Protective Stadium to a multi-use baseball stadium. The Stallions get a lot of criticism online for their lack of attendance seen in these past couple seasons, and this is despite them being one of the most dominant teams in modern spring football, being the first true dynasty under legendary head coach Skip Holtz, where they won the USFL Championship in 2022, the USFL Championship again in 2023, and blew out the San Antonio Brahmas in the inaugural UFL Championship in 2024. This is all while playing in a market and state that doesn't have an NFL team. Despite the success, they tend to be in the bottom middle of attendance in the league. They have averaged between 9,000 to 12,000 fans per home game since 2022. Of course, this isn't to say that they can't bring in big crowds, as in their first ever game in the rebooted USFL in 2022, they drew a crowd of almost 18,000, their highest attended game, which provided tons of energy as the Stallions played an exciting game, barely beating out the New Jersey Generals 28-24. Birmingham, despite not leading the league in attendance, is one of the highest rated markets in the UFL in terms of TV viewership. This strong support is a bright spot that shows that the Stallions are a strong brand in the region. With such a strong following on TV in Birmingham, the league will continue trying to convert eyes on screen to butts in seats. The league hopes that with a refreshed look and Alabama Crimson Tide star QB AJ McCarron at the head coaching position, they can fire up the Stallions fan base into attendance numbers similar to their first game. Of course, only time will tell if social media challenges and well-known first-time head coaches will be able to match the excitement of a brand new league with 8 times the marketing. Up next, we unfortunately do have to discuss the Houston Gamblers. Like Birmingham, Houston has been a really criticized market in recent years for its low attendance. As someone who's only missed a handful of Roughnecks home games, it's true that attendance has unfortunately dropped pretty dramatically ever since the leagues merged. I'll try not to rant too much about the reasons why. This could be its own hour-long video, trust me, I have so many opinions on this, but As someone who's been to as many home games as possible, it's strange seeing the Houston fan base be seen recently as weak, since I remember the lively atmosphere being one of the big reasons why I really got sucked into spring football. The Houston Roughnecks in 2020 were one of the healthiest fan bases in the XFL. The team was averaging over 17,000 fans in their first 2 weeks, and were one of, if not the only teams that saw their attendance grow with each home game. Their third and last home game in Week 5 had nearly 20,000 fans in attendance, with demand pushing the stadium to open the upper bowl for more fans the next home game that unfortunately would never happen due to COVID shutting down the league. The growing attendance was due in part to the XFL's huge marketing push and the excitement of watching MVP Jay Walker lead the team to a high-scoring, undefeated season. Since 2020, though, we have seen declining attendance in Houston, with the 2023 iteration of the team averaging 12,000 fans under Wade Phillips, and after the XFL and USFL merged, the team saw even lower attendance numbers. In 2024, the team averaged only 7,000 fans, and in 2025, the team averaged only 5,000 under head coach Curtis Johnson. With a rebranded identity as the Houston Gamblers from the 1980s, and famous A&M and UH head coach Kevin Sumlin leading the team, can we see the Houston fanbase be energized and support the team like they had in 2020? The final fan base we'll be discussing is the Orlando Storm. Orlando is home to one of the new expansion teams in 2026, but the city is no stranger to spring football. In the modern era of spring football alone, the Storm will be the third franchise in 7 years for the city, with the previous franchises being both feast and famine in terms of attendance. The city was home to the Orlando Apollos of the AAF in 2019. They were one of the most popular teams in the AAF, ranked second in average attendance at just under 20,000 per home game. The Apollos were the top performing team in the AAF, going 7-1 under legendary collegiate head coach Steve Spurrier. They are still one of the most fondly remembered teams in spring football, even after the unfortunate folding of the AAF. In 2023, Orlando was returned to by spring football with the rebranding of the New York Guardians into the Orlando Guardian. They had a look that is very similar to the modern Louisville Kings with a forest and neon green look. Back in 2023, XFL fans were extremely hopeful that attendance would be more similar to what we saw in 2019 with the Apollos, but unfortunately it was far lower, only averaging around 9,000 fans per home game, the second lowest in the league that season. This number was made to appear even smaller inside spacious Camping World Stadium, an NFL-sized stadium with a seating capacity of 60,000. Unlike other teams, we don't have previous seasons to go off of with the Storm, and with a promising fan event that saw good crowds and a league-wide push for early marketing, there is a chance that if the league can drum up excitement in the city, we could hope to see attendance numbers closer to the Orlando Apollos than the Orlando Guardians. With the 2026 season right around the corner, things are really heating up in the world of spring football, and here at the Archive, it is no different. I've got several videos in the works discussing the history of the UFL and spring football, as well as team-specific overviews once rosters are finalized after training camp concludes. Outside of the UFL, I have scripts being written around the reveal of the final teams to be added to the underdog startup Continental Football League, hoping to make its debut in the world of alternative football this summer, as well as a breakdown of the splitting of the European League of Football into two competing football leagues. So if you're interested in spring football history, alternative football news, and league overviews, be sure to subscribe to the channel. With our previous upload, we excitingly hit my personal channel goal of 1,000 subscribers, which I thought would be something that would take multiple seasons to hit, so a huge thank you to those who have joined the Archive to make this milestone possible. I cannot thank you enough. The support I've gotten this offseason making this channel has been amazing, and I'm committed to providing the highest quality content I can. So if there's any video ideas you'd want me to cover, be sure to leave a comment on what you would like to see. After going over these fan bases, which do you think will be seen as the best at the end of the 2026 season? Let me know in the comments, and as always, thank you for watching.